the big like retail job I got that like really changed my life, as corny as it sounds, was Kith. And Kith was still like in their old location.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. I'm gonna try to get a job there because I just knew the type of people that shopped at Kith. I'm like, those are the people that I just want to talk to, right? If I can like get in a room with these people, this is it. So I ended up getting an interview. I get to meet Ronnie. I'm Queens bred.
Yeah.
So like he's the president. He's the mecca of Queens for me at that time. And I walk in the room and like the first thing he says to me, he looks at me, he's like, how old are you? And like I wasn't 18, right? Yeah. Like I wasn't like some kid or whatever. I tell him how old I am. He's like, what do you got, like Pharrell syndrome or like something? And like made my whole life. I was I'm meeting Ronnie and you me Pharrell, same sentence. Yeah. Like done. But my whole time there like changed everything. I got to oversee the footwear, moving the brand from like that small location they were at when they were just in Atrium to like where they are now in Lafayette. Yeah. But like the different clientele that I got to work with, like working with NBA players, investors, bankers, like all these different type of people that were getting into sneakers, right? This is like the really beginning of like, oh, white boys are doing this too. White girls, like Long Island, like, it wasn't this small sneaker community. It was like all these people, and like still to this day, like a lot of those relationships that I made in that place are like the reason I'm here, like down to like the mentor I have. Yeah. So I just think it's like retail has this way of like making you hustle. Yeah. Especially when it's a commissioned environment or you're dealing with like higher clientele, like communication where you learn how to speak, where now like I'm working on like the corporate end and I'm meeting all these people that I used to be intimidated by because you work in an office. Yes. And like all these things, but like they can't even speak. Yeah. They can't even talk or communicate their creative ideas. That it was like, it's almost that saying of like School of Hard Knocks. Right?
And retail prep you.
Yeah, and retail prep you was like, go walk up to that person you've never seen before. Yeah. You don't know, and get them to buy a shoe.
Which is one of the most uncomfortable things in the world.
You also have to like generate your own business.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
I worked at Foot Locker. I worked at Foot Action. I worked at Lids. And the most uncomfortable thing is to walk up to a motherfucker you don't know. But hey, how's it going? Because they expect you. Because when I walk into a store, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker.
Yeah, please don't talk to me.
How's it going today? Anything I can help you with? No, I'm straight. I mean, what you do? He's like, nigga, I'm straight, man. You know? So to get them to accept you is a daunting task. Yeah. So I would imagine, working on the corporate side, you're like, oh, this is cake.
It worked. I mean, I think too, like a lot of people weren't that intimidated by me, or were so like, what are you? Yeah. Like, who's this brown girl, boy, no hair? Like, they didn't know what to do, that it actually worked in my favor. Yeah. Of, like, being able to, like, help people. And, like, there I just realized, oh, everyone thinks I'm weird and much cooler than I think I am. Yeah. Just because you haven't met someone like me before.
Yeah, let's speak to that. Because when I first met you, that's the first, my impression as well. Like, damn, you're so uniquely cool. I mean, we're creative people, so anything that's different to us, we gravitate towards it. Yeah. Because that's what I like. I don't want the same homogenous, boring cookie cutter type thing. If it's that, I'm not interested in it. I want something that piques my curiosity and for me to be like, yo, who are you? What are you? I want to get to know you. Yeah. That's fascinating. As cliche as it sounds, the variety is the spice of life type thing. Yeah. It fucking is.
It is.
That's why it's kind of racism itself is mind blowing. Yeah. Classism is mind blowing. I remember when the food truck revolution hit in LA, I read this article in the LA Times, and they were saying the dopest thing about it is you have all these people from all these different walks of life gathered in front of this food truck, construction worker, executive, whatever, they're having this conversation, because there's something to be, drawn and absorbed from each and every one of us. That's what makes life so fucking fascinating. That's what makes New York so fascinating, right? You'll see, I'll use this dumbass example, even though he probably got bodyguards, but you see Bloomberg on the fucking subway, You see anybody. That shit is wild.
It is.
Whereas in LA, there is, it's structured off. The rich people are driving in $200,000 cars going to, catch and doing things like that. But with that being said, have you ever gotten any strange responses or negative responses for people who didn't understand you?
I mean, I've definitely, like, I think the weirdest thing is like men.
Oh shit, I want to hear this.
I get hit on by, like, I used to get hit on by men like crazy.
Okay.
Working retail, and it used to be the weirdest thing because, you know, I call, yo, what's up, my mans? What size are you? Like, you know, like really, you know, like dap, you know, everything, and then they'd be like, yo, ma, come here.
Yeah.
Come here real quick. Like, so you just into girls? I used to be like, bro, you serious?
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, and that was something that was weird.
Yeah.
To me, that happened a lot of the time. Sometimes I would have parents that didn't want me to help their kids.
Really? Okay, so
You know,
okay.
they think gay is contagious.
Let's go back to the. I want to talk about the gay being contagious thing, but let's go back to the men thing. Why do you think that is? Why do you think men was trying to spit game at you, even though they could look at you and tell that, listen, I don't fuck with you like that?
I just don't think they could explain it. Like,
Yeah.
they see my face. Like, I have a feminine face.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But then in like the same respect, always used to be the type of dude that will definitely follow up every comment with like a no homo or a pause. So like that's what was so conflicting. Is it was like the hoodest dude ever. That I'm just like, bro, what? Like you trying to take me to Carbone?
As a man, let me tell you, and I'm not speaking for the men who tried to holler at you, but I'm gonna give you some. I'm gonna try to give some insight on that. We are fucked up. But let me tell you how fucked up we are. I got a friend. I'm not gonna say your name, bro. I'm not gonna put you out there, even though I could. I'd love to do this. He was telling me that he met some girl and they went back to her place and they were about to have sex. And he was like, yo, it was crazy because she was like, take your clothes off, lay on the bed. I'm going to the bathroom real quick. And he said she went into the bathroom and she came out naked with some demon contacts in her eyes.
No.
Right? Yeah, like the pupils are straight.
Yeah.
So I was like, what? He like, she came out with some demon contacts and candles were lit and it was dark. Now listen, I'm superstitious and I'm a scared motherfucker. You come out with some demon contacts, I'm out the window naked. I don't care what it is. I'm leaving my clothes. I'm leaving the clothes. I'm like, ain't no vampires getting me. Fuck that. But he's like, she put contacts in and she wanted me to to have sex with her. And I was like, what you do? I'm thinking he's gonna tell me he got up and left. He was like, man, I hate it.
He did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do. And I'm like, that's men. Like, men are so stupid. A woman can call Austin and be, I'm just gonna use you for example. This is not really Austin because he's a wholesome Christian. A woman can call Austin and be like, hey, Austin, me and my girl's going to Lucifer crib in the hills. You wanna come? And Austin will go and then call me and be like, hey man, I'm going to some dude named Lucifer crib. If I don't come back, come look for me. It could be the devil. We are dangerously fascinated with what's different,
Yeah.
So.
No, I had to ask. Like, I was just like, what is it?
Or you'd ask him.
And then he was just like, I don't know. I feel like you would tell me no, but if you told me yes, I would feel really successful. I'm like, whatever I liked it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, that's cute.
100%. Like, yeah, it's a compliment.
I get it. Don't touch me, but I got it. I
appreciate it.
Yeah.
So you said parents would not want you to help their kids.
Yeah, like it was like they wouldn't say it outright, but it was the more like they're looking at me and then they're looking around, like who else can help my child, like type of thing, which used to always be interesting because I always wanted to help families, like especially when I would see kids, like especially at Kith is like. There was like this era where parents weren't really aware of what streetwear was. Yeah. So they didn't understand. And like a lot of the kids were like queer. Yeah. Or like just different. So it was just always fun to be like, oh, I'm gonna lace you up. Yeah. Like get you right. And like some parents were really accepting of that. And then you could tell some are just reluctant because they don't want their kid
to be influenced by
to
you.
be that. And they're like, you're just making them think that you're too cool right now. So it's like then learning to like navigate that, winning over the parents, and then get to the point where like I just took your money. Yeah. Like that was like a beautiful process. Yeah. So like I don't know, that's the way I just face everything. It's like you're gonna meet me, I'm gonna talk to you, and you're gonna like me. Yeah. There's no reason you're not gonna like me. Yeah. And then it's still gonna be a transaction at the end, but like it's just an experience. And I think that's like what I try to do through like anything creative is like how can I create something that's not tangible in the sense of like, okay, I bought something, I'm walking out of the store with it, but it's like a memory.
Like an experience.
That you'll never forget, like that experience of like, I went to this place and it like changed my day or my life, or someone said something and then that sticks with someone, to me is just more powerful than like a physical commodity.
Okay, so I had another question to ask you pertaining to how people treat you, but you just said something that really segues into something I've been wanting to talk about. Transactions, right? Experiences in the fashion world. Right now, we're seeing some sort of cultural shift where people want an experience as opposed to I just want to walk into a brick and mortar spot and purchase something, right? Speak to me on that as far as gifting people an experience. Like we know at UACTP, the popularity of the gym and the facility has nothing to do with the weights or the classes or nothing like that.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with the fact that when Austin walks through the door, I might bust his balls about dressing like an Eastern European prisoner.
Yeah.
You know, or him saying that I dress like a fuck boy, or I open up magazines. I'm like, this is what they wear. I'm gonna put the whole kit together.
Yeah.
Or me buying things from him, hustling, you know, Russell hoodies from the 70s out of his back of his pickup truck. People laugh at that. They like that. Austin crops his shirts. I crop my shirts. People say they look stupid and we look like Carl Weathers from Rocky. To now people crop their shirts. It's that experience. Speak to that. Is that something that you're curating here right now? I mean, with the Highsnobiety and your other endeavors?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to like storytelling.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I call it the Jesus factor. But when you look at like religion or like any story that people like follow for a long time and like the obsession with why we follow these stories and why we want to be a part of them. Why do you want to go to Egypt?
Yeah.
You know, to go and see the pyramids. And it's being able to feel something emotionally that was amazing that might not ever happen again in the world, and having that like FOMO of like, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
So then you still go back and visit that place just to say in some sense you were there.
Yeah.
And like that's always what I'm trying to recreate in anything I make. Yeah. Right? Or you see it at like ALD or like a Kith, like all these brands where it's not about the clothes, it's about being a part of this like Messiah like vibe of like, this is something that's going to be amazing, that's going to be in history forever, and I want to say that I had a piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like just a picture, and like I think of my experiences growing up, which were horrible. They were so bad, and all we do is spend our whole lives trying to replace those experiences with better ones.
Yeah.
And that comes all through like storytelling, where it's like we could come from two different places in the world, experience life completely differently, but the way we listen to stories, the way we hear stories, and the way we experience them will be the same, because these stories exist all at the same time together, right? And just last from generation to generation. I always tell people, like, if someone tells you a story and you can't repeat it, it wasn't a good story.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to give people something that they want to repeat, that song you don't want to skip and you just want to like play all over again because it makes you feel something.
Yeah.
It's like something can be an experience, but like if you don't feel anything when you walk in, so it's like, what's the music playing?
Yeah, that's the whole point of it,
like,
right?
Who are the people in the room? Like, what are the things that they're touching? Are we eating? Like, there has to be like this whole vibe. You know, if life is a gallery, you know, what would your life look like if it was on like display?
As you were talking, you just made me think of it. Have you ever seen Small Axe?
No.
Okay, listen. Steve McQueen, the director. Shame, 12 Years a Slave. He's from the UK, black director. He directed an anthology series on Amazon called Small Axe. And it was chronicling the Caribbean experience when the Caribbeans first moved from wherever to the UK, right, in the 70s. And each episode, I think there's 6 episodes. Each episode is different. But there's a special episode that you have to watch called Lovers Rock, like Sade's album.
Yeah.
And it's about the Jamaicans who threw house parties in the 70s in the UK. Listen to me. It's fucking mind fucking blowing. And Steve McQueen is known for those long shots, like in 12 Years a Slave when Chiwetel Ejiofor was just hanging. Yeah. And there's a scene in, I always tell people to watch this. It's, first of all, you have to watch it with your significant other. It's that type of episode, right? But it's just chronicling this house party, and at the beginning of it is them cooking the food, rice and peas, oxtail, curry goat, the chicken, and they're cooking the food, and they're setting up the DJ equipment and whatnot. But it vibes out so well, and there's a scene where they're playing some music, and it's a long, drawn-out scene where everybody in the house party is singing the song. It's one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. But when you were just explaining what was going on in the corner, what was going on at that time, that's what I was seeing. Yeah. And that's a vibe. That's something you want to capture. Like, I've watched that episode at least 20 times just because I want to capture that nostalgia and that feeling. And I'm like, damn, I want to be there.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
That's why, like, for me, it's like, oh, I say the Jesus factor because I'm like, when you go to one church,
Yeah.
no matter where you go in the world, you go to another church, it's that same vibe.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's a powerful story.
Yeah.
Like, that story is so powerful that it can be repeated through different languages, no matter what. And, like, the end result is, like, always the same.
Yeah.
So, like, I always approach, like, I'm a nerd. I'm obsessed with, like, religion, history,
Yeah.
and all of those things. But that's all I think about. I'm like, if you can't feel, like, you ever, like, taste something and you're like, oh, it tastes like this experience. Or, like, oh, this feels like
Yes.
summer. I'm like, how do you elevate our senses and take them to another level so deep that the sensory is something that you can't ever forget?
See, listening to you talk is not a surprise why you're so successful, because you're a true purist of this. It's not like you're like, I remember one time I was in I was in Flight Club and I was getting some sneakers, and these white girls walked in, and you know, shout out to you white girls. I'm not saying y'all shouldn't be fresh and wear sneakers, but these white girls walked in, and she was like, I just want some Jordan 1s, you know, those right there. And as she was talking, you know, I'm not the culture police, but I felt like I should have been the culture police. I wanted to be like, do you even you ever watch Michael Jordan play a game? Do you know why these sneakers is popular? You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here. Don't sell that shit to her.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, the whole idea is to, you know, not be underground and be so mainstream that you make a lot of money, like in Brown Sugar.
Yeah.
When great movie. Remember when his boss was like, "Hey man, you want to keep it real? Go down to Raucous. We keep it profitable." You know? And I was like, I get it too. You know, you got to make money. You can't be so underground and so pure with everything you're doing. Like, man, son, we so fly, kid. You know what I'm saying? We got these sneakers. You selling it? Nah, it ain't about selling. It's just about being fresh. You know what I'm saying? Let me borrow $10. At some point, you got to make money. But I do sometimes feel like the culture police. I'm like, yo, these executives came one time, and I was like, sneaker execs. I'm like, and I was like, yo, man, y'all should do like this homage to the dope dealers. And they were all white people, and they were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the dope dealers. And I was like, it's because of the dope dealers, the sneaker business is what it is. Niggas was killing each other over sneakers at parties. I remember, you know, in the 80s being at parties and somebody walking with the snake skin top 10s. They don't even make them no more. It's over. You step on their shoes, some niggas shooting each other. And I was like, it was that thing. When I grew up, Feli, you know what I'm saying, Adidas, Diodoras, Troops, and you wanted to be like, the drug dealers were forever and always the mega stars.
The villain is always the best dressed.
Say it again?
Villains are always the best dressed.
Yes. And you want to be like them.
That's it.
I'll be in class looking at, you know what I'm saying, what's his name? This dude I used to go to high school with named Darren. Darren was like the coolest motherfucker ever. He'd walk up in the class like, what's up, fellas? That's how y'all, what's up, fellas? You know, what's going on, man? Didn't do no work, had a sky pager on his hip, and would have, I'm talking about every day, they called him Wally.
Yeah.
Wally. Shout out to you, Wally, if you still in Detroit, whatever, man. Looked up to you, bro. He'd walk in with these snakeskin Adidas, the pager, you know what I'm saying? True
Not
jeans.
the pager.
The sky pager, and just be like, you know what I'm saying? What's up? What's going on, fellas? What's going on? That's his favorite thing. He would never talk to you. And I'd be like, yo, Wally. And he was like the first one in our hood to have a muscle car, Chevelle.
Yeah.
And girls just loved him. And I was like, I want to be like Wally when I grow up. And I'm a grown-ass man in my 40s now, and I still think about the dope dealers that I look up to. So I was saying to these executives, I was like, yo, y'all should find some way to pay homage to them, because this billion-dollar industry that's taking the world by storm was cranked up by the dope dealers. And they looked at me like I was crazy. They were like, what? Why would we do that, O'Neal? No. And I was just like, man, how can these people be in charge of this culture that is so rich and goes so deep? And I'm not saying if you're a 20-something-year-old white guy or white girl that you should go pick up a book and go read it, but
you should read, though.
You should read. You know what I'm saying? You just can't just be doing this and not know what's going on. You know? How you feel about that, working in this industry?
I mean, to your point, I mean, at the end of the day, the whole point is to make money.
Yes.
And I've had like many focus group and many conversations with these executives, probably the same ones. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I'll say is like progress or makes me feel better is when I see someone like me in the room, and that continues to happen. Is just like history will tell you this is just how it works. Like people have been making money off of people who are marginalized or don't have enough, or just because of their skin color since the beginning of time. And these companies were created at a time where white men and women were in power.
Yeah.
So it continues that way. Like a Nike, for the example, it's like running culture from Portland, Oregon. Like it doesn't get whiter than that.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, their most popular shoe being an Air Force One is a dope boy shoe.
Yeah.
But for them to do an ode to like the dope dealers, they would have to admit the social and racial responsibility that they have for the reason those dope dealers are on the street. And
Yeah.
that's the story they don't want to tell.
That's the story they don't want to tell.
You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's that accountability where it's like they'd rather just act like it's not there.
Yeah.
You know, or just like, it's free advertising.
Yeah.
Keep them in the streets.
Yeah.
Keep them at those jobs.
Yeah.
Keep them rapping. Keep them dancing. Keep them doing all those things. Keep those distractions happening to stop them from ending up in the boardroom.
Yeah.
And like now we've reached a point in like sneaker culture where I feel like more communities of color are now aware of like, nah, like if you're going to get paid, I'm going to get paid too.
Yeah.
Like we're both going to come out of this. And I think there's more conversations and there's more responsibility happening. But I mean, I was just telling Rachel the other day that I was like working on a project and I was asked to come in on the project just because I was black to have a black person in the room.
Wow.
I wish I was joking.
Yeah.
Like I wish I was joking, and it's like at some point I'm like, that's crazy. No,
Yeah.
I'm not going to. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, I'm gonna still go and be in that room because like the voice still needs to be there. And like to the person that asked, I'm like, respectfully, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
But at least you were the one person to be like, there's 6 white people here and we're talking about the 50th anniversary of hip hop.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, like
Yes. Yeah.
it shouldn't just be us. So it's like, I feel like there's work to do on both sides. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't think it's my job or responsibility to educate somebody on something that the internet exists.
Yeah.
Like there's no excuse for you to not know these things. But like the conversations have to start somewhere, and I don't think we're having the conversation enough where like people of color are able to be like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or I feel like there are these creative projects and things happening and like my voice doesn't matter, because what people don't realize happens on the agency side or the brand side is, yeah, there may have been people of color involved in the initial part of that creative, but usually the people who are the sellers, the people who like end up in the rooms that are presenting to these companies are the opposite of that, right? They're removing that creative element from those conversations.
Yeah.
So you don't even get to present, you know, your own idea and like all of these things, but people want to keep their jobs.
You know, which is really interesting because going back to the Dame thing, you know, when I was young and was watching the whole beginning and rise of Rockefeller, Dame was always the most fascinating person to me because
He didn't give
just
a fuck.
he didn't give a fuck. And I feel like when I watch the young people now, they're familiar with him to some extent, but
Yeah.
I'm like, y'all don't even. It's Jay, and Jay is rightfully deserving. He's Jay,
Yeah.
but I'm like, y'all don't even know. This dude is, regardless of how crazy he is, regardless of how outspoken and reckless.
Yeah. Nobody wanted a jacuzzi on a yacht with a tank top with 2 bottles of champagne and 20 girls. Like that, the Big
Man.
Pimpin' video, like that video changed my whole. I was like, that's it.
That's it.
I need to be on that.
That's
boat.
it.
Like,
It was
that's
so
it.
influential. And then at the same time, watching him do this black opulent lifestyle. On the flip side, you see him going in on white executives, telling me, you don't know shit about the culture. I remember a time watching him like, God damn, isn't he concerned that they'll blacklist him?
Angry
I
black
remember,
man.
yeah, I was thinking about that, but I was like, nah, he lives an unedited, unfiltered, like, I'm going to say this, and if it costs me whatever you think it's going to cost me, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, to me, it's admirable because it goes back to the whole thing in the beginning, like when you say like where your mom didn't want you to have a harder life, or my mom don't embarrass me in front of these white
Yeah.
people. It's that same old thing.
And that's
like,
what I mean. It comes down. So even when you are in the room, you don't want to speak up.
yeah,
You don't want to. You're outnumbered.
yeah,
You're outnumbered, and it's like, what is my one opinion going to do to change like these 6 people who are set in their ways?
yeah. Which is an infuriating thing because
Yeah.
it's a twofold thing. Because you're like, all this you're discussing is because of my culture. It
Yeah.
all emanates from us. Yet I'm nervous to talk to you about what comes from me.
Yeah.
That's a mind fuck.
Yeah,
You know?
you just have to learn how. I mean, like I've learned now to speak that language. Like I think that's like the hardest part is, yeah, you could go in hot
Yeah.
and be like, yo, you're wilding. That's crazy. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get what you want. But it's like, now it's like, I know how to position the story.
Yeah.
You know, what are those buzzwords that are gonna, you know, speak to Bob, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
get him
yeah,
hype
yeah.
and be like, yo, whatever she's saying, you know,
good.
that's it.
And to build on that,
Yeah, exactly.
those are
You
words,
know, it's
yeah.
like a mix of like how do we take our culture and the things that are like so organic and so real to it, but then how do I flip it into a script that can actually be understanding of from someone who doesn't know that perspective at all. And I think that's the hardest thing is like, especially as a POC creative, is you look at it and you get it right away. You be like, I know what that's inspired by, I get that, but I think sometimes we even get lost if we present it to someone who didn't grow up that way or doesn't see the world the way we do, and they're like, oh, I don't get it. Then it's like, you don't know anything, you know, type of thing. When it's like, I don't expect, like, you're not black, like, I don't expect you to understand. So it's like, there is a sense of like, yeah, sometimes the artist has to explain their work.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes just that like message of like, okay, maybe you don't understand it from like my perspective, but let me, if XYZ was this,
Yes.
you know, would you feel like that way? Like hip hop was born at a house party.
Yes.
In the Bronx, and it's 50 years later and we're still like talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in that community center where hip hop was created was storytelling, communication, like all these things. So it's like we can't forget that in the creative process, where like sometimes it's like when you're an artist, it's just like, nah, this is it. This is what I saw. This is like, I already know it's hot.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like you
just
also
shut the fuck
have
up and listen to me.
You have to. It's a business.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a business. It's a hustle. And, like, Dame Dash and, like, all of these dudes that we talk about then, like, they were from the street. Their generation didn't have that fundamental line of, like, going to school and, like, learn. It was just, like, straight to the streets.
Yeah, guerrilla style.
To the music video.
Yeah.
Type of energy. And it's, like, I feel like, especially, like, my generation after, doesn't have that like grittiness, you know. We've been softened by the internet and television, all these things where like they didn't have that. They had to fight, you know, for everything. So it's like, I don't think we should lose that past, because that energy is like what we need now, where it's like sometimes people are just accepting like, well, this is just the lane that I have to stay in, or this is like what I want to be in. Like, that's my biggest thing, is I never want to be known as like, especially when someone's about to introduce me, my favorite thing is to hear how someone's going to describe me. And if they lead with, you know, she's gay, like that, when that description starts that way, I'm like, yo, you're already off on the wrong foot. Because that has nothing to do with my personality. And like who I am. And I think those are the things that we have to like change, is like the way we describe experiences and people and things have to be more of a broader sense. And like, I always think about everyone else in the room besides myself. When I make something, I don't make something for me. You know, like I'm making it to who needs to buy this shit. You know what I mean? And then there are elements of me in it where I'm like, this is going to be something cool that's going to go way over your head, but I'm doing it for the O'Neills of the world, because then he'll see it and be like, okay, like I'll take that from that. And I think that's important, is we can speak multiple languages within like one format. It's just not being selfish about the stories and the art that we create.
Completely and totally. I think that outlook, that way of looking at creativity in life, speaks to everyone eventually. I think it just causes, it may not cause immediate success, but it causes long-term success. And you saying that everything is linked to a story, we talked about this. Story will forever and always be the wellspring of everything, whether it's film, television, art, fashion. I want a story. I was at a popular bar in Silver Lake in LA, and I had same kind of Rolex. I forgot. I'm out of it. What kind of Rolex is this called? This is a day. I had a day, and I had it was red. It was custom. It was a red face.
Oh, custom. Excuse me.
Well, I mean, you know, it's custom is cheaper because Rolex won't service anymore. And I was at the bar, and this guy walked up, and he saw it, and he's like, "Oh, that's dope," you know. And he had one on too. And I was like, "Yeah, yo, this is dope too." Da, 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 da. And then he's like, "Yeah, I got it from my great grandfather." Immediately when he said I got it from my great grandfather, I was like, man, mine ain't shit, because it was linked to a story. It passed down through generations, and I was just thinking to myself like, damn, when did his great grandfather get this? How was it passed on? This, that, and the other. Whereas I went to a fucking dealer downtown. I was like, hey man, give me, I want a day, and put a red face on it. It had yet to have a story connected to it. You know, that watch automatically had a history behind it, and I was like, okay, storytelling is everything. The fact that your
Yeah.
grandfather gave this watch just makes it that much doper. I want to circle back to something. I want to circle back to, we were talking about how, Dame Dash and those guys that grew up then came straight from the street. Their generation was from the street to the boardroom, and so the transition, you'd have that rough
Yeah.
in between. I'm a slight generation after them, so I always looked at myself as like a person that's in the middle, right? I'm not soft. I haven't been soft, but I come from the street, grew up in the project, seen all that, but I also understand that there's a way that you need to go about this. You can't, have Aldous and the Beanie Siegel talk about. Yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
When Leora was like, oh, he pulled the gun out on him. He was like, okay, that's some
Yeah.
street shit. You can't pull a gun out. Calm down.
Yeah.
We're in the boardroom here. But so how would you speak to, or how would you suggest that a person, a young person that doesn't have those opportunities compared to a Nike executive or Adidas executive that went to college, got a leg up, and got a certain position over someone that might have more information and knowledge and know-how just from being immersed in the culture and growing up in it, but doesn't necessarily have the educational background? How would you say they should go about trying to get themselves in that position to have some sort of influence?
I mean, it's all the art of the finesse.
Okay.
Right? Like, I didn't, like, for me, like, coming up in the industry, like, I had to compete with these white girls or white people who had that pedigree of they went to this college, they got that intern, and then they went right into that position. Whereas, like, I had learned the hard way of, like, how do I put myself in a position to be able to speak that language? So it was like learning, okay, how do they present? Looking at those people that you see in those positions and like, how do they move? How do they speak? What is the process that works? I think you have to do your work, like homework in a sense of looking at it from a bigger picture of like learning to speak that language, right? If I can learn to speak the language of the people that I want to sell to, then I can go back and reformulate my plan. Like, I don't have to change what my creative angle is or like what the story is I have to tell. I just need to reframe it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I always think about it, it's like presentation. If you go and you buy something in a store, right? And you come into the store, I bring the product to you, it's a shoe, and I just like kind of throw the shoe box. I don't open it for you or anything like that. There's no ceremony. Yeah. Immediately the value of that shoe is nothing.
Yeah.
If I come out and give you a white glove treatment and I open that same box and I start telling you the story of like why the debris is that color, why the sole is like this, like now this $150 shoe feels like a $500 shoe and it feels like one of a kind. Now you want to buy it.
Yeah.
Like that's the way that's the metaphor I use when I tell anyone of like framing your ideas. Like, what does this person want from you in the transaction? What do they actually respond to? And like studying that. Because at the end of the day, it's like I didn't learn shit from school. Yeah. Like, nothing I learned from school put me in any position I was in. Yeah. I learned it from actually doing, and making mistakes and like failing. And I think that's something that like I've noticed for like the next generation is like this fear of failure and not wanting to fail at all. So then they're not making these mistakes. So then you're not learning from anything, where it's just you have to do your homework. In that sense of like, okay, it didn't work this time. Why didn't it work? When I presented that idea, like what was missing? And also like humbling yourself to understand that you might be this great creative genius, but it doesn't mean you can handle putting your idea in the right place. Yeah. So like using your resources, like to your point where you were saying you were a hybrid, you were right in the middle. So that hood dude should go to you, O'Neal, and be like, all right, how do I talk to these people? Yeah. Like how, and I don't think we feel comfortable always asking those questions and admitting I don't know how to present my own idea, or I don't know how to like sell this in. And it's like, once you can get past like that part of your ego and understand like you need people, like when you look at any successful person, we'll use Diddy as an example. Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you looked at the people on his board or the people making his business happen, it's not the same dudes from the street. Jay-Z even he said something once about the way he changed in making music. He wasn't a drug dealer anymore. Yeah. That's not who he was like talking. He's rich. Yeah. So then he starts teaching us about like art, designers, but through the music. Yes. Through the lens of that language. So when I hear him say something, I'm like, I don't even know what that word is. Yeah. I could just take it and be like, I'll never know what that is, or I can look it up.
Do you think it's like that because, initially we embraced the streets? Follow me here on this. we initially embraced the streets because that's all we were given, right? Like when the slaves were given the leftovers, we made the most of it. We took the innards of the pig, made chitlins. Yeah. And now it's a delicacy, right?
The finesse.
The finesse. We can take shit and finesse it and turn it into something great. Exactly. We took the ghetto. We took crack cocaine. We took struggling. Yeah. We made that shit so fly that French people come to Harlem to look at murals in the ghetto.
With tour guides.
You know what I'm saying? Some wild shit is happening. But do you think we're too married to it now? Because I've heard some people say that, okay, listen, we needed to make the streets gold because that's all we had. Now we're not obviously where we need to be, but now we have enough education, technology is where it needs to be for us to be like, you know what, I gotta leave you behind. I gotta hug the street and leave you behind. Like I gotta go street. I can't be really fucking with you like this no more. I can't be like, yo, I'm from the hood, man. Fuck that whole ass shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We gotta leave that behind. Do you think we're still married to it to some degree, and that's why it's hard for us to make that transition, or admit that, you know what, I really don't know how to elocute myself in this way to get my point across?
I think, especially in the Black community, I'll speak on, the streets give us a sense of accreditation. Yeah. Right? And like, it's that seal, you know, I'm street approved, like I'm Black. Yeah. You know, like I'm Black, you know, and it's like taking that, because I was having this conversation with someone the other day. It's like, when you're a Black person and you meet another Black person, there's immediately this comparison, you know, who's the most Black?
Facts.
You know, like,
facts.
Who's the most Black? Yeah. You know, and it's like, and we take that into our industries where it's like, if we feel like if we forget the struggle, we lose that accreditation. Yeah. You know, like, oh, I no longer have that seal. Yeah. You know, and there's this like, oh, you're a traitor. Yeah. Like, you're doing this, but I'm like, we have to stop doing that. Like, the struggle is always going to be there. No matter what, the world is always going to, if I put on a hoodie, a Black beanie, I go outside, I walk at night, Shorty's still crossing the street. Yeah. When she sees me, no matter how much money I make. And I think that's something that we have to like realize is, for a long time, that's how they're always going to see us. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, it's more for how we see each other, how me and you see each other. And that's what we're thinking about. It's like walking around with a white girlfriend. Yeah. You know, when you're Black, or like, oh, that's how you feel, you know, type of thing. And it's like, we'll never have progress that way, where it's just like, at some point, the streets doesn't have to be the backstory. That doesn't have to be the origin. Yeah, I came from the projects and I came up this way. It can be like, yeah, my parents did. Yeah. And then they created this life for me where I don't, and I'm still aware of the history of it. And like, but for Black people, what happened to us and what is still happening is not history. Yeah. It's something that is still happening today, and that is the issue that we have, is there's like this level of disparity where there are Black people who don't grow up that way, and then there are. Mm-hmm. So then you're stuck in this middle lane, especially in like creative and like fashion. They don't want the Black person who went to Princeton. Yeah. You know,
no, like not at all. Not at
all. That's not Black enough. Yeah. Your story's not Black enough.
You got white people literally saying
your dad's not a crackhead. Like, you know, like, you're not that Black. So it's like, that's the struggle, and that's the problem when you have like white America telling you this is what Black looks like. If you don't look like a character from The Wire, you're not Black.
Yeah. That's so fucking true. Like,
and that's what I feel like the problem is, where we don't feel like we can leave it behind because it's the only thing that allows us to hold weight. It's the only thing that I can say to someone who's not of color. You can't even say shit to me because I was from the street. Yeah. And you're not from the street. But if we both grew up in the suburbs, what is the argument?
What is the argument? Yeah.
You know, and like, it's that tension that we're always like searching for, and that's like what holds us back for everything, is we've allowed another race, another set of people tell us who we're supposed to be and what our stories are supposed to be, but we haven't reclaimed new ones.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so fucking well said. You know, it's interesting because I say the cliche statement of how to combat that is to just be. Yeah. Just be. Just be in the moment. Don't subscribe to what your Black people are saying to you, but don't subscribe to what these white people are saying to you. Yeah. Just be. But that's a hard fucking thing to do. We were discussing that yesterday. Like, there are some people that just get it, right? That they're not frazzled by their history or what people deem them to be, or the stigma that's put on them. They're like, I'm just doing my thing. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do when I do it. I recognize that I'm Black, but this is how I move. You know, one of the interesting things is like, I was talking to a friend the other day about anime, right? And he was like, I didn't know black people were heavily into anime. And I was like, yeah.
It's a whole subculture.
It's a whole fucking subculture. But when I was young and coming up and worshiping anime like I was and having it, shape my life, I thought I was the only nigga that watched anime.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was like in my 30s that I was like, yo, black people like
There's
anime
more
too.
of us.
There's more of us. It was a wild thing. But it's almost as if they, at least the time when I was growing up, niggas was scared to tell you that. Niggas in the hood when I wasn't going, hey man, I love anime, man. You know what I'm saying? Hold up, I'm about to sell it dope in this country. No, because they didn't want to be, teased or considered weird or other than.
I mean, we've all always been treated as one.
Yeah.
And like that's the way I think of it when I think of like black culture, was like we were all punished for our skin color.
Yeah.
We were all put in the projects together. We were all put in these places, and when someone got out, it was always a thing because you can't take everybody with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like when you start to eliminate the struggle, when you meet a black person and they didn't have that struggle, another black person who had to stay in the hood while you were out, living, they just feel left behind.
Yes.
Like it's always feeling left behind. And like, it used to happen like all the time. Like I would have friends, oh, you think you're like too good, you got like all these white friends, you're getting tattoos, like all this shit. And it's just like, bro, like you gotta grow.
Yeah, you gotta grow.
You gotta grow. But that's the thing, is I was blessed to have opportunities or to meet people to tell me I could grow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the places where we come from aren't places of development.
Yeah.
Like even when you think about the prison system and things like that, like no one is being rehabilitated.
Yeah.
No one is being told there is a life after this.
Yeah.
You end up in the projects. Like you get to live across the street from something you're never gonna have. You see those big luxury buildings over there, you'll never be that. So it's like we're always separated in that sense. So when we see someone look like us get that, how? What did you do? Or that's not fair, come back.
Yeah.
We all have to be down together.
Yes.
Type of thing. And it's like that's the only currency and equity people of color have.
Yeah.
Is the unitedness of like just a struggle. Like you can go to like different hoods and people, oh, you from that hood? Like it's good. They respect it because they know. But the moment you say you're from somewhere else that might be deemed as better, they don't want to. That's it.
It's like we revel in the shared pain.
It's like it's almost like the same premise of like a gang.
Yeah.
We all got beat down to be here, but you think you can just get out and go live a different life?
Yeah.
Like, and that, to me, like, that's the constant struggle, is I'm like, I have more problems with my own community than I do with others. Yeah. And that's the sad part, is like, we could all go there together if we just all will support each other.
And accepted the fact that we evolved.
Exactly.
What's ironic is that in some instances and cases, the ones that do make it out feel as though, okay, I'm out. Is this what they do here? I have to act a certain way, dress a certain way. I don't do that anymore. Or this is what or flaunting it or wearing it on your sleeve, as opposed to just keeping that happy juxtaposition. Because I think juxtaposition is one of the greatest words ever.
It's a beautiful word.
Right? I love looking one way but being able to do another thing. I love the fact, like I always tell Austin, I was like, I love Shakespeare. I just love it. And I love the fact that when you look at me, you don't think that I know Shakespeare like I know Shakespeare. And I bust that shit out. But at the same time, I slap shit out of somebody. I'm just joking.
But you're aware. You're aware of your, like, you saying that is interesting, because to me, that's what I always tell people my strength is you don't expect anything. Like, you see me and I'm the exact opposite of what you're going to get visually. Yes. Which is like a weapon. The problem is, like, going back to the community, is being black is not your whole identity. Exactly. But like in these places, that's it. Being black is their identity. They're treated and go through school and do things a certain way because they're black. Yes. So when you leave and you realize, oh, I could be a banker. Like I don't just have to be a black person. I can be all of these things. Yeah. That's why it's so hard to go back. And when they see you, they don't recognize someone who's black anymore. Yes. Because they're like, you do this and you do that. Like, no, we're only one thing, and that's being black. And it's a daunting task trying to teach or educate and say, listen, man, this is the way it really should be. You know. I mean, and some people are comfortable. Yeah. Some people, they're scared, and there is that fear, because then what happens if I go out there and I try to not even shift my identity, but find who I am outside of the color of my skin, and I still aren't successful. Yeah. you know, and then I get a taste of something better, and then shit, I'm right back here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like some people rather die
Yeah.
than like risk that, so they just stay.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. L, this has been amazing.
This was
This
cool.
has been amazing. I have to have you back. You know,
You're stuck with me.
I'm stuck with you. You're stuck with me too. We're of like minds, so I appreciate you coming on the show.
Of course.
This has been 3 Black Guys on the Couch. Please like, please subscribe for more great content like this. Thank you.